Hi to everyone, I'm Sango. In this video, we are gonna program the Chupito. The idea is to get the Chupito working with all the basic features, put it into air, and then we can tweak like the PID and make all the regulations. So this is like the basic setup just to make it fly. To do so, the first thing will be to bind the ERS receiver. I was not actually able to bind with the 3 power cycle, but just connected to the Wi-Fi using the bus freight, and it's working great now. So let's connect to the flight controller first. Okay, here the first thing I want to do is just to pass through all these tabs, like from the top to the bottom, and in each one change only like the defaults that are essential to be changed. First of all, we can go in the calibration tab, and here we can calibrate the flight controller. The first step will be to do the calibration. It is important to note that because we already installed the flight controller inside the airplane, the flight controller is the one that must be in this position, not the airplane. So we are calibrating the flight controller, not the position of the flight controller to the airplane. So we click calibrate, and then we move the flight controller in this different position, and then we should be finished. Okay, now that the calibration is finished, we can move on. We will go in the mixer. Here we will apply the standard configuration for our case. It is a flying wing, simple flying wing, and then we can click load mixer. So as we can see now, here below we have two servos, servo 1 and 2, with stabilized roll and stabilized pitch mixed with 50%. What I always like to do in my wings is just to add a little bit more roll and a little bit less pitch, because we are going to use more roll than pitch, and by doing this we can have the maximum throws on roll and a little bit less on pitch. Okay, now that the plane is plugged in, we want to verify that when we pitch up, for example, both elevons will move up, so putting the nails of the airplane to the up position. If I move the stick down, so to make the airplane move up, I see that the left servo is moving correctly, but the right one is opposite. So to fix this, we can just see that the green servo, the servo here, is wrong. So we can come here, and for the stabilized pitch, that is the one I'm testing, just invert it. And then I will try to roll, so roll to the right, and what I expect here is the left servo to go down and the right servo to go up. In this case, the left servo is correct, the right one is wrong. So again, we will also invert the roll. Okay, now I will verify my commands again. So up, down, right, and left. Wonderful. Now they are all working as expected. Now we can get to the output page. But before setting this output page, I like to do something, because you see, like now the plane is in stabilize mode, like in angle mode. And the problem with this is that the 0 position depends on how the plane is tilted, because it will try to level itself. If we trim the servo now, we will trim them wrong. So what I like to do is to first go to modes and set up my modes. So here we are going to set up the arm, an angle mode, a manual mode. Normally I set up also a loiter, and I return to home. Additionally, we will also add a servo auto trim and also an auto level trim. This will be used later in the maiden flight to make the wing fly correctly. So we can return to the output tab, and here we have to make sure we are in manual mode. Okay, now if I move the plane, I can listen and see that the servo is not moving. So I'm sure that we are in manual mode. The first thing to do here is to trim the servo. So we will start from the mid, and we will make sure the servo are flat with the wing. Now we can set up the minimum and maximum throws. For this, we want about a 12 millimeter movement on pitch and 50 millimeters movement on roll. So with live mode enabled, we can modify them. Once the part of the servo is done, an additional thing we have to configure in this tab is the motor output. So in our case, we'll just select D-Shot 600. I mean, D-Shot D300 would also work great, but that's fine. We will change the servo refresh rate to 330 Hz because these are PTK servo and they should be able to handle that. Now we can test the motor, see that it's working the right direction, and if not, with IM32, change it to the other direction. For the ports in INAV, this is actually where you have all the devices connected, so either via UART, MSP, or other ports. So in our case, we will just use the UART3 for the GPS, so we will select GPS here. We'll use the UART4 for our ESC telemetry, so ESC output telemetry. Well, and then finally we'll use the UART5. It's where we have our digital video transmitter. So for this, we will just select in peripherals, MSP DisplayPort for DJI, save and reboot. Okay, as you can see now, if we go in the OSD page, you can actually see that we have the digital options here. And for this version of INAV and this version of the OSDs from the DJI side stuff, we'll select Avatar. And this will enable us to have the beautiful OSD with all the symbols and all the stuff correct in the DJI goggles. We can now go on the configuration. So here, the only thing we will change is permanently enable launch mode. Can now move to the Failsafe tab. For our Failsafe, we want a return to home. That is correct. And now for the tuning, we will leave everything default except in rate and expo. We'll put the manual rate to 80 for the pitch and to 95 for the roll. We'll augment the roll to 260 degrees per second and the pitch to 150. It depends how snappy you want the airplane to be, but I find this a good compromise of smoothness and having fun. Now for the advanced tuning tab, we'll change the launch throttle to maximum power, the max throw angle to 180, and we will change the climb angle to 35. This will make the launch much easier. Another thing that we will change is in the return to home settings. We want to do extra, so we want the craft to fly X meters above where it is when return to home is enabled. We want the craft to fly 20 meters above the points where it's at when you enable RTH. We'll also use linear descent. We put RTH home altitude to 20 meters. So now with these settings, I'm happy about the RTH attitude. Of course, this is only so for emergency. I hope it will never be used, but at least we know what is here. We'll change the cruise throttle to 30%. And the lighter radius, I find that 75 meters is a lot, and we can do 20 meters diameter, 10 meters radius. So this is everything for this part of the setup we can save. The last thing we want to do is in the adjustment tabs, we want to prepare these for the PID of roll and pitch tuning. So to do this, we will enable 6 different adjustments. And on the Radio Master, we will use the 6 position switch. So as you can see, these are the 6 positions. We will use that to choose which parameter we are changing. So as we can see now, for every position, we have a different adjustments enabled. And we can select here the PID for both axes. Here we will also disable angle and loiter for the first flight, because we are using that switch to make the PID correct. So this is it. This will be everything to put this wing into the air. So in the next video, we are gonna tune the PID controller and then have some fun. Hi, thank you for watching this video for programming the Chupito flight controller. I hope everything was clear. If not, please write your question in the comments. I will try to answer them. And in the next video, we are gonna do the maiden flight, so fingers crossed that everything goes well. I just want to add a quick note. Sorry about the mic quality. It's not quite up to my standards. So sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something.